Welcome to the Disability Adventures podcast. I'm Andrea Anderson.
And I'm Chip Dodd from Team Disability.
This episode is all about the women of AR. I got to interview Saleena Devore, Chelsea McBride, and Beth Zagurski. They are all women of AR ambassadors, and they're doing some really neat things to get women in the sport. So take a listen, and maybe you'll get inspired to do some of the things they're doing. I think you'll enjoy it. Are you ready to push your limits, conquer the unknown, and actually train like an adventure racer?
This episode is sponsored by Nick Herf, elite athletic coach, seasoned adventure racer, and the go-to expert for building endurance, grit, and next-level performance.
Whether you're training for your first 5K, your next ultra, a multi-day expedition race, or recovering from an injury, like I am, Nick Herf offers personalized coaching plans that fit your goals, your schedule, and your life. With a deep background in real-world racing and a science-based approach, you'll get more than workouts, you'll get results.
It's not just about finishing, it's about thriving through every challenge. Remote coaching? Yep. Custom plans? Absolutely. Motivation and accountability? That's what he does best.
Check him out at nickherfcoaching.com and tell him we sent you.
That's NICKHURFF coaching.com.
I am here today with Saleena Devore. She is a Women of AR ambassador, and I am too. And the Women of AR ambassadors have been tasked with helping women get into the sport. And I think it's the women in AR is really growing. And there's been some really exciting things that our ambassadors have been doing. And I think Saleena has been extremely successful, and I've seen her in action. She is a great mentor, and from what I can see, her most successful technique is just one-on-one, sign up with a race with me, and we're going to show you how to do it. So I'm glad to have her here, but I want to hear more about all of that. And Saleena, I want to start out with basically, your adventure racing history, what keeps you coming back to it, what drew you into it in the first place. So let us know. Take off.
So I actually started with like the mud races, the obstacle races, because I needed something to motivate me to get me moving. And, I started doing them, and I did a lot of them. And I finally did the Tough Mudder, which is considered the hardest race. And I'm like, wow, I'm done now. Like, there's nothing. I've already done the hardest race. And I'd met this guy who had said something about adventure racing like 3 years earlier. So I just started like, let me just look this adventure racing thing up. And, I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. Like, I've always loved map and compass. And, I was getting into mountain biking and just being outside. And I was like, this is something a little bit different that I'm definitely interested in. And basically, once I started, I was completely hooked. And I keep coming back because honestly, I'm kind of lazy. So
I do not believe that.
If I don't have a race coming up, I could just sit all day and just like look out the window and cuddle my cats. But like knowing that I have a race coming up, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get out and do stuff. So it is really motivating for me, which is funny because I'm not competitive though. But it's more for me and keeping me moving and motivated.
Well, I do disagree with you that you're lazy, because I know you're often multitasking, and I know you crochet. And so like even when you're sitting still, you're not actually sitting still. You're like doing something all the time. But I have some hobbies that are like a little less adventurous than adventure racing that I enjoy too. So I think I think it's really cool that that's the reason that you keep coming back, is because it keeps you motivated to be moving. And I totally understand that. It sounds like, though, different than my background, that have you always been outdoorsy? Like that part of it was not new to you?
Right. So I've always been outdoorsy. I'm not naturally athletic, though. Like I have friends who are not necessarily outdoorsy, but they just have this natural athletic ability. And so they just naturally just go. And I've been training my butt off. Like I'll take a newbie out on a race and I've been training really hard. And they're like, well, I thought about training and they just gone. So I definitely have like the outdoorsy piece to my benefit. It's that athletic piece but that's what I actually love about adventure racing, is that I'm slow. Like my pace doesn't get much faster than that. I've seen turtles pass me before. But what I
No.
love about adventure racing is that the playing field is so much more leveled for somebody like me because I'm pretty good at strategy and navigation. So I can make up for my speed by getting to the checkpoints and as opposed to people who are fast going the wrong way.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of leads me to this question of what was a defining moment in your adventure racing journey where you felt like you truly belonged in the sport?
My very first race.
Ah, love that.
I signed up with a friend and she didn't know anything about maps or anything. So she's like, I'm here for the ride. And it was supposed to be like all fun. And I didn't know that there were backsides to the maps. And so we had already been trekking for like a really long time. And all of a sudden I see these people on their bikes and I'm like, huh, where'd you get your bike? And they're like, they flip my map over and they're like, up there. And I'm like, oh no, like I've screwed this up. We call the race director. He's like, we've been waiting for you. And I was like, there's no way we're going to make it there. And he's like, well, you can continue, but you'll be disqualified. And I was like, okay. But my partner, she was like, no. So she drove me to the TA and she left me. And I had to finish this race by myself.
Wow.
And this is probably the only time I've ever cried during an adventure race because I left that TA just crying because I felt like very abandoned. And I turned the wrong way, ended up going miles the wrong way.
Oh,
And I'm sitting on the side of the road. I'm like, this sucks. And actually, I call my husband and he's like, get back on your bike and go. And I'm like, so I finished this race and I was like, and thankfully it was one of those races where there was like a 6 hour and a 12 hour. So I didn't come anywhere close. I was supposed to be like in the 6 hour and I think I showed up with like the 12 hour people.
oh no.
But I did it. And I did it by myself. And I'm just sitting there and I was like shredded from like thorn bushes. I was sunburned. And I was so proud of myself because I was like I made it through so much and I didn't die.
That is wonderful. And so that's the moment when you realized you belonged.
Yeah. I was like, I can do this.
So I just love that because a lot of people think, they have to perform really well to feel like they belong. Like there's some imposter syndrome in many of us, when you show up at something new.
Yeah.
Yet, here's a sport where, it meets you where you are almost, like you can show up at a race and have a complete failure of a race and still feel like it's where you belong.
My first three races, I was disqualified in all my first three races for different, and I was like, so eventually my goal was like, I just want to finish qualified.
That's
But
awesome.
I kept going back, because I was like, there's just something about this that just makes me feel so happy.
Yeah.
And so,
And so before we get into how you get others in the race, one more question.
yeah.
How did you learn map and compass navigation? And you learned that before you learned how to race.
Yeah, so I had a baseline with that. I did search and rescue. I did
Okay.
canine search and rescue. So had to do a lot with map and compass, and I took some courses at like REI. Now I am part of our local orienteering club, which kind of helps to sharpen my skills.
Awesome. All right. So then how many races have you done? Do you know?
I've
Have
tried
you
counting.
keep
It's
count?
probably over 50, 60.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I know that you mentor people and you often are racing with complete new people to the sport. When did you start doing that in your race history? Like how many races had you done before you thought, you know what, I'm going to sign up with somebody completely new and show them how to do this?
My second race.
Ah, Wow. See, I knew I'd be impressed.
So actually the lady on my first race, she had never even done map or compass or anything. So I mean, technically, I guess it was my first race, but even my second race, I hauled my best friend from second grade. I'm like, come do this thing with me. It's so much fun.
Wow. Okay, so then the flip question, how many races have you done where you're not showing a newbie how to race?
Um, so I have a couple of different things. So I will race with the team and sometimes like with friends. I like to do race. I specifically pick out races to do solo because there's something about that I need. And then I have a couple of races that I do with newbies. So like I would say like almost one third for each of them.
Hmm.
I try to like divide it. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but I try to do like, a third of my races with somebody new.
That is wonderful. So then I have to know, how do you find people to race with you that are interested in adventure racing? Do they already have an idea of what it is, or just how have you found them?
So usually like so on Women of AR, um, they'll one of the things that I've really started doing was with Buff Betty, offering to take teams out. My very first time I did that, we ended up with so many women, we had two teams.
Yeah.
And so I had six, I think there were six of us, like, and they were all brand new. And then some of them had no idea what they were getting into. Some people think they know what adventure racing is, and then they're like, "Oh, this is not what I thought it was." Um,
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, I'm interrupting.
Go ahead.
I wanted, well, no, I'm not going to skip ahead yet. Sorry, go ahead. So how have you found these folks?
So, like most recently, a lady had posted on one of the Facebook discussion groups, like, "Hey, I want to do this race, but I'm brand spanking new, and but I don't want to do it alone." And I was like, "Oh, wait, I'm free that day."
Yeah.
And actually, now she and I are going up to Vermont and doing a race in Vermont in July.
Wow, that's
Like that,
wonderful.
yeah, I mean, this was her very first race, like in March, and now she's doing this 12-hour race with me in Vermont.
Wow. So what I was going to say is I've seen you in action, and I think your style is just perfect. It's just enough I want to say like enough mothering, but enough like involvement and collaborative and respectful even, and you're always having fun. Like I was been probably racing against you in a couple of races and thinking, oh, I wish I was doing that. Like here I am trying to bust my ass to go as fast as I can. And like, oh, they're having so much fun. Yet I decided to do this race solo. Like, why did I do that?
Well, so if I'm doing it solo, I am in more of a race mode.
Yeah, it's a different mindset, isn't
It
it?
is, and that's what I like about both of them because sometimes I need that solo. I need to be able to push myself and rely completely on myself. But when I do tell people like who want to join me, the first thing I tell them is I am party pace. Like this is like we are out to have fun. I will teach you everything I can teach you, but we are out I mean, like our number one goal is to have fun.
Yeah.
Um, and usually what we do like beforehand, especially with new people, is I do like a little group message group. That way they can ask me. I'm like, ask me every question you have. So especially as we get closer to the race, my phone is pinging all the time, like, oh,
Yeah.
but what about this? What about this? And we'll do like a Zoom meeting so I can talk, make sure that we're all on the same page and make sure that they don't, that they have all the gear they need. If they don't, I'll bring extra gear so that way, like, everybody's comfortable and they have what they need for that race.
Yeah. I think that's just a great method to it. Do you ever meet by Zoom ahead of time?
Yeah, so we'll do like a Zoom meeting. My first 24-hour race was a couple months ago. And that was kind of along the same things where actually this time I wasn't the mentor, but I was the one who was like, let's see who wants to do, who's new to 24-hour racing. So I got this woman who is, really amazing. And we had a couple of Zoom meetings with, we again ended up with two teams because we had so many women who wanted to do their first 24, but didn't want to do it alone.
Yeah. What a great way to up your game, with someone
Yeah.
who's at the same stepping off point as you are, especially having some experience already. Um, what have you seen as the biggest barriers for the people that you're teaming up with that are new to the sport?
I think that the biggest fear for a lot of the women is the mountain biking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that, you know, and actually like and also the navigation piece. I think sometimes they're afraid of like getting lost out in the woods. But when I tell them, with training, I'm like, train on the mountain bike. If you have a choice between going to an orienteering or mountain biking, do the mountain biking because I can't teach you that out on the trail.
Yeah,
So get those skills and I can work with you during the race and show you how to do the orienteering, because that's we can do that on the fly. But
that's great advice.
I think that a lot of times, when I tell somebody, "Oh, I'm just doing a 6 hour race," because now it's just a 6 hour
Just,
race,
yeah, that's always relative.
and I realized that wait a second, that used to be like, "Oh my God, I'm going to do this 6 hour race," and I think that also scares people because they're like, "I can never do anything for 6 hours," and I'm like, "Look, if you can make it through a 5K." Like you wouldn't even have to run the whole time. Just if you can make it through a 5K, you can do a 6 hour race.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that people have to experience for themselves to understand.
yeah,
And then once you have that realization, I think that's also another hook.
yes,
Um, but with the biking, I usually try to remind people you can always get off and walk.
yes.
You don't have to be the most technical mountain biker in the world.
And
You
you can
just
also choose not to do some of those checkpoints.
truth.
So I'm taking my daughter, she and I are going to Unbridled Women, the Kentucky race in a couple of like 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
She's terrified on the mountain bike. And I was like, that's okay. We can skip those checkpoints or we
Hmm.
can do like the easier ones. And, now she's like, okay, we can do that.
Yeah. And a lot of those shorter races, the really beginner races do have a lot of options for
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you can go for and, what you may not want to. I think that's really special about adventure racing.
Uh,
And the navigation piece, if that's holding back women, I always think at least you're not alone, like I'm never afraid when I'm with people,
right.
you know, I I shouldn't say never. I'm not very afraid most times if I'm not alone. And I've come to where now that when I solo race, I'm not afraid usually either. But I understand that fear of getting lost, and
Yeah.
it is a unsettling feeling, that's for sure. But definitely not. Shouldn't stop anyone. Shouldn't be a
No,
barrier.
it shouldn't stop anyone.
Yeah. Um, and you may not know, and I don't even know if I have any answers to this question either, but have you noticed any differences in how women approach the sport compared to how men approach the sport?
I was actually talking to my husband about this, and I'm like, well, I don't usually work with men. Like, I'm usually, especially in this, but I kind of feel like, just from what I see, sometimes I feel like the men just kind of come in and they're like, oh, we'll just kind of wing it.
Uh,
And I feel like the women prepare a little bit more and give a little bit more thought process to like what they're going to need during the race and kind of anticipate their needs a little bit more.
yeah.
But
Obviously, we're talking in very big generalities.
right, for sure.
What it comes down to, it's mostly personality is, it doesn't matter if you're man or woman. If you have that mental toughness, that's going to carry you a long way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think then, since I just said, we're talking in generalities, I think men um, just have more confidence in skills that they may or even may not have. Whereas women, their confidence comes from
Yeah.
actually having the skills. That was
Yeah.
totally someone out there listening is going to be like, that is not true, which maybe it's not. I'm speaking from my own bias, and
So
I
in the beginning, I did race with guys, and I think I agree with that. Like their confidence is a lot higher, even maybe when it shouldn't be.
yeah.
Um, so it's a little bit different, yeah.
And of course, there's probably women out there like that too.
Oh,
So,
I'm sure.
whatever. Um, okay, so um, I think that we've talked about a lot of things that I wanted to cover. But tell me a little bit about um, the sense of community among racers and the women of AR.
You can't beat it.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
this is actually like not even just in the women of AR, but the AR community. Um, when I was like, I'm gonna do my first race, and this first race was a pack rafting race. And I'm like, I didn't even know what a pack raft was. And I'm like, what do I do? And then I look it up online. I'm like, that's how much it costs? Oh my gosh. So like I had some friends in the community who are like, hey, you can borrow my pack raft. And I'm like, you're just gonna let me borrow your pack raft? But that's like so normal. Like they're like, oh, you're missing this gear. I can bring it to the race for you. Um, and at nationals, one of the guys broke his bike, and I was volunteering. I'm like, here, take my bike. Um,
Oh,
so like, but that is how that community is. Like, or you're like, you come upon somebody, you've been wandering in the woods like forever looking for a checkpoint, and you see someone and you're like, please just tell me I'm close. And they're like, yes, just go that direction.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
so nice that people are like, instead of like, no, I'm not telling you where it is. You need to work for it. I mean, all the time. And they're like, you pass somebody out on the trail and they're like, hey, good job. I mean, like you talk to every single racer out there during the race, even the people who are like super competitive, and because they've got their game face on, but because I'm like, hey, what's up? Good job. And they've got their
yeah.
very serious face on, but they're like, they nod and acknowledge, and they're like, you too. And like when you need help, they help, the community helps you, whether it's during the race or, before the race. If you have questions, everyone is just so open and wants to be helpful.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm wondering, I think you had said that a lot of people that you've had on your teams that were brand new have gone on to do more racing too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And actually, like, it's crazy. One of the ladies that I took last year to Buff Betty did nationals this year. Like, and offered to do it 2 days before nationals because somebody needed a last minute teammate. I'm like,
Wow.
holy cow, you went in 1 year from doing like this 10-hour race to nationals. And another lady in that same group just did Cerberus. And
Wow.
her first race was like last year. And it's just so amazing to watch these women, go from their very first race to things that I haven't done yet. I'm like, holy cow, that's just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that must feel really great.
I'm so proud of them. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of like every single woman that I've taken out, and when they go to like, and I don't think any of them have not done at least a second race.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's really wonderful.
It's so exciting.
And part of why I wanted to interview you is to encourage racers now who, have done a lot of racing, or maybe they haven't done that much, but to encourage them to want to do the same, to take along someone who's new and show them how wonderful our sport is, and particularly women, because we can always use more women in this sport. We're gaining ground, I would say, but it's a great sport for women and for anyone to get started. And you seem to have been having so much success. Um, so along those lines, like what advice would you have? Anything that you haven't covered for someone who is wanting to teach someone, what AR is all about?
So like so somebody who wants to be a mentor,
Hmm.
just do it. Like, put yourself out there, and not like, I'm getting ready to post again, hey, I'm looking for brand new people who want to join me for buff betting. So like, pick a race or two and say and that you're willing to just go and have fun and say, hey, does anybody new to the sport want to join me? And and just make sure that you kind of meet them at their level, make sure that the expectations are very obvious. Like I said, for me, it's party pace because that's my pace. So I make sure, I'm very clear about that like, we're out there to have fun, we're out there to learn. We're not going to be the only time I run is when I see a photographer. So because I'm like, wait, let me fix my hair.
Yep. I know what you mean. You got to put
Because
on your game
they're like,
face when
oh,
you
are
see
you
the
running this
photographer.
whole time? I'm like, no, I don't run.
Only in photos. Photos
Right.
and video.
They're like,
That's
all the pictures of you show you running. I'm like, well,
that's really cool. Well, and just one last thing. What do you see as the vision? What's your vision of women in AR in the future?
I would love to see like races be like 50, at least 50-50 for
Yeah.
women to men ratio. I want to see all those women that come to like the all women races, like the Buff Betty and Unbridled Women. I want to see them go to the co-ed races
Yeah.
because like when we're out at those all women races, there are so many women there. And I'm like, yay, they're going to come to the other races. But I think they get intimidated that these, that it's not an all-female race.
Yeah.
But honestly, like it's just as wonderful. Like, and so I want to see all those women that come to the all women races get in there with the co-ed races and show everyone that this is a like an equal sport. This is something that we can all do and really succeed at.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that advice with us and sharing your story. I really hope it encourages someone to do exactly what you've been doing. And I wanted to give you one last second to tell me about your first aid business that you have.
So yeah, I own my own business teaching first aid. I teach wilderness first aid and also mountain biking first aid. And I think that it's just really important because when we get injured out on the trail, we need to know what to have and what to carry. So for anybody who's interested, in July, I'm going to be doing a 2-hour workshop with women of AR on adventure racing first aid. So I'll be talking about like what you should be carrying and some of the common injuries and what to do if you get injured.
And so, how would anyone get in touch with you if they're interested in that, or even if they're interested in joining you for a race sometime?
Oh, can I give my website?
I think so.
Okay. It's www dot or www.onthetrailfirstaid.com. And that's all one word spelled out, On the Trail First Aid. And you can contact me through my website or look at the classes that we offer. Or even if you just want to talk about adventure racing, first aid, whatever, I could talk all day about both of those things.
Wonderful. And I want to leave with just one last thought from you. What does adventure racing bring to your life? What does it mean to you?
Just joy and happiness and fulfillment. I mean,
Yeah.
like it makes my heart happy. I
Yep.
do all the things I love with the people I love.
That is wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for talking with me, and everyone out there, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye. I am here with Chelsea McBride. She's also a Women of AR ambassador. And in our roles as ambassadors, we're trying to get more women in the sport. And Chelsea has done an excellent job doing that, if I don't say so, for you, because um, I don't know you that well, and I know what I think I know. I'm not sure. So you're from the San Diego area, correct?
Yes.
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 And tell me more about your adventure racing start
Hmm.
and what keeps you coming back to adventure racing?
Yeah. I started, of course, bubbly voice right from the get-go.
It's okay.
Yeah, okay. So what drew me to the sport originally was watching the Eco Challenge on Amazon Prime back in 2021. And my best friend and I were both watching it, and it was like one of those Pinky in the Brain moments, like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And so,
Awesome.
but there were no events to be had. And there were no orienteering events going on either in San Diego where I was or am, but was at the time as well, and none in Austin where my best friend lives.
Do you think that
So
was because it was during COVID, or
yeah,
is
it was
that
absolutely a remnant of COVID. Mhm.
okay? All right. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Um, so we found an event in Vermont under Jamara, the Bitter Pill, and they touted it as beginner friendly. So we were like, well, let's go. Let's do it. And we had at the time 4 or 5 months to plan for it. We didn't know what we didn't know at all.
Wow.
So this is
So,
like fall of 2021.
wow. And how
And
long was that race?
it was a 12-hour.
Okay.
We didn't see every leg of the course. We got short coursed, didn't get to do the marshy part, which is really sad because it was my best friend's favorite part. But a bike nav error on my part made us go a little bit longer out of the way, a little more
Well,
elevation gain.
but wow. First off, your first race was a long way away from home, and it was a
Yeah.
long race. So that's what gave you the courage to try that. What's your background before you started racing?
So Liz and I had competed in college, NCAA rowing, and that's an interesting sport because you better have each other's back. You are literally in the same boat. You have to row in unison. You have to be in sync, and you spend so much time with each other. So, like, I inherently trust her, like, with my life.
Yeah.
Um, so so in that respect, it's really good to start with somebody that you know really well. Um, Yeah, I don't even know if there were not other events closer, but there weren't certainly any in California. Like still Gold Rush had taken a pause, and I think the original um organizers of that, are more or less retiring from organizing it, and that baton has been passed. But at the time, in 2021, there really is nothing. And And at the time, I know what nationals ended up being in California in like 2022. Had no idea at the time as a newbie that anybody was allowed to sign up for nationals.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was
Wow.
in my backyard and didn't know I could go is disappointing in hindsight, but like, oh, okay, well, rules have changing because obviously, a couple years ago when I was able to go with Liz to nationals, it sold out in what, like the 35 minutes or whatever
Ah,
crazy thing it was. So,
yeah, it's not a guarantee that you can get a slot, even though you don't
oh,
necessarily have to win your way into a slot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it
And
let medium people like us in and to
yeah,
revisit Jamara when they were hosting it.
well, I think you're already going to be inspiring because, you don't have to wait till something's in your backyard and you don't have to start with a small race and you can just go for it. How many races have you done since then?
I haven't counted, but actually not a lot because nothing's close by. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I I feel like I started adding it up and it was, if we count Brawl, which is an unofficial training event in California, but it's 24 hours. But they have a 12-hour option as well and shorter as well, I think. But if I even count those as like official ones, then I'm up to like 20 at most.
Yeah.
And two of
Well,
those being
that's quite a
expedition
bit
races.
since it's only been since 2020 that you started.
That's true.
So,
That's true. And
yeah.
I'm not even sure it's up to 20. So like let's not we're rounding up. Okay.
Well, then let
Yes.
me ask you this. Can you share a defining moment when in your AR journey you felt like you really belonged?
Oh man, I think that only happened like 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Really?
I
Yeah.
That's surprising to me, and I just have to say because I know you've been organizing a lot of events. So to
Yeah.
So is it just a defining moment, or that's not the first time you felt you belonged, but it was a
I
defining moment in the
I
sport?
really think it was the first time I felt like, oh, I'm okay at this sport and I can actually mentor other people and like as
Wow.
opposed to
Okay. Well,
just
I got to
hanging
hear
on by a
about
bare
that.
thread. Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing about organizing races in San Diego is because I wanted races for me. And so if I put them on, then it's kind of just like a grassroots like builder community. And after a couple of years, I was only putting one event on annually in December, and the second one a year later, then other people had stepped up and were like, hey, okay, I'll do a course design, and okay, cool, I'll have to do a course design. And then it's like building that like momentum because I
Yeah.
can't possibly train and design more courses and set out everything all by myself. So it's like it's really nice to build up that community and cadre really of like course designers and event directors so that we can all benefit from each other. I'm doing a lot of
Yeah.
hand waving. I'll try to stop doing that.
That's perfectly fine. That's no problem. And so, go back to this defining moment. When
Oh
was
yeah. so so I happened to be able to partake in one of the free training races in San Diego, and I was bringing two newbies with me. Um, and I, I started adventure racing with my best friend Liz, and I, truth be told, have never done an adventure race solo. So I feel like that's a blind spot that I need to check that off someday.
I'm
But
not sure about that.
okay, well, I haven't yet. So, you know, but in this race though, even as a training event, but it was a 10-hour and we were out there for about 8.25 hours. And with two newbies, like that was kind of like their mental, like, yeah, let's get back at 5 or whatever instead of 7, right? That's what we aimed for, anyways. And it was that making me navigate essentially, and also at least give them basic information so that they weren't ill prepared. So
Yeah.
like, okay, you gotta have water, food, and electrolytes. Like, and this is how, and you try to adjust at least 200 calories an hour. Like the very basic stuff. And then like, okay, luckily one's a mountain biker and one's a trail runner, and she was borrowing a bike. So like, made it happen. but but it was after that, and they were, and I didn't kill them for one,
That's
and they didn't
good.
kill me, or they didn't want to kill me. At least I don't think so. But also, I was really proud of like some navigation decisions that I made, and so then it was like, okay, all right, like they weren't all winners. There was one time where I was lost, but there were other teams lost at the same time, so it was at least validated in that respect too. Um, but it was actually then that it felt like, oh, I could actually be competitive, even if San Diego is a small pond, so to speak, of adventure racers, right? It still is like, oh, there's things I can teach, and I'm not terrible at it anymore.
Wow. Well, I guess I'm surprised you felt that way because I know you've been so active in the Women of AR and you've been organizing races. You've created this cadre of people around the sport to start creating events in your area, and you're just now feeling like you belong. So I don't necessarily think that's the usual experience. Like I feel
Yeah,
like most people at least find people at their similar experience level and kind of realize that it's a sport that's welcoming, that
yeah,
they can, put away that imposter syndrome a little bit sooner than they thought they might have. Like we don't need
that's true.
that anymore.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, yeah.
but
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, what were you going to say?
Just that, yeah, 100% about imposter syndrome. And it's not that I didn't like, I have loved being with teammates and the community, but it's funny that as much as I feel um, lifelong bonds with my teammates, I I don't know if I felt like adventure racing specifically was like my jam, or if I liked it more than it liked me.
Ah, that's a good way of putting it. I have wondered that before myself too. Because I love adventure racing, and sometimes things just don't go quite as planned.
Yeah.
Um,
And another thing is putting on events doesn't require you to be the bend racing or the Vitorade skill level, right? It's
well, that's what
it's
you need to enlighten us about next, is how did you start putting on events? And just tell me your philosophy around that and how you just got going. How'd you get started?
I have no idea now.
It's ancient history already.
Yeah, I think well, so I will give credit to my friend Kyle Mackey. We're we were brainstorming back in the day, and I don't know how the first event started, but at some point I got a or I just made the run sign up event. I think that's what it started from. I just put on in fact it might have just been Meetup, and I still have the same Meetup group, but I'm pretty sure I made the first event in Meetup, and then I created like a Facebook event that basically forward and flyers in Canva and posted about it in the SoCal Adventure Racing and maybe even the Bay Area one, and really just kept funneling people to the Meetup to like sign up there. This is free, like just you know, please RSVP. Because the other kind of issue is, do people have skin in the game if it's free? You're gonna have no shows then, but that's okay. Like, just count for 75% of the people to show up or whatever. Like, uh, printing maps is not so expensive if you only have like 2 maps per person, right? And honestly, the fact that like 20 people showed up was amazing. And, what's the extra 5 people that didn't show up worth maps? Like, okay, it was a very simple event. I think there were 2 pages of maps. It was an overview and 3 maps, double-sided, whatever. Uh, more or less. So
Yeah.
like, I'm
So
glossing over a lot here, but that's
no,
fundamentally what it
if
was.
I've got it straight, you advertised on Meetup, and it was a free event.
Yeah.
So you
And
provided
Facebook
everything.
pointed to it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and so it started from there, and then
yeah.
how
It,
did you make it grow?
so then so then the next year, and I kind of planned, okay, December of the next year, what am I doing? And then it was like, all right, now I got to pick a different one, and where is it going to be just as like iconic San Diego? I think every race director tries to showcase the best of their area, or the best, course designers are trying to showcase the best of
Yeah.
their area.
Mm-hmm.
And for San Diego, you can't be coastal and not have water. So that does
Yeah.
narrow it down quite a bit, because we don't have lakes or rivers really that are open to kayaking without renting their boats because of rules about putting in personal watercraft. So um, long story short, I just advertised the same way. It was like, okay, here's the second annual one.
Yeah.
And that time I put on run sign up. And there's a free version of that. Like, if you're not charging, then it's super easy. I mean, there's obviously an initial investment in time to set it up and put what you want in there. And there's been a learning curve there. But that was the next event. And that one, then it was like, okay, I'll try to implement some more things, like having a potluck the night before. That was a fail.
Oh no.
Yeah. There was 2 of my friends there. But most people on a Friday evening were not going to make their way down towards downtown. Like, it's too urban area,
Yeah.
I think, for most
Mhm.
people to make it. But I thought, oh, cool, I'll camp at this nearby camp area and maybe other people will join. And like, that didn't happen at all. So, but
Well, trial and error. You tried,
exactly,
it
exactly,
can't hurt to try. So you learn
exactly.
something that doesn't work. But Run Sign Up has
Right.
been working for you. And
Yeah,
you have a lot of people coming back, the same people, or
a lot of different things. Before I forget, though, that after the second December event, I did a survey in Google Forms and I wanted feedback. And I think like that's kind of sometimes also the hard truths that you don't want to know. But like one of those was, hey, there was a multiple choice kind of question. Like, would you want to stay for food or would you want to come, for a Friday night food? Sorry, I'm like,
you're fine.
or would you want to stay after the race for food, or would you be wanting to camp and have a whole thing? And what it really was that people were willing to stay after the race, and that was pretty much it. So a little bit learning about the demographic here, right? And so we implemented that in both of the last two races. And the last two times, so Dana Bori put on one in Ramona, which is a city in San Diego County, and that was really beginner friendly. She had a family friendly option. The 10 and under kids geocache option was a big hit. That's something I think that Bend Racing is really good at too. Their family days are more geocache style, and like that very small feedback loop that kids need was it's
Yeah,
very short and very effective to be like, oh,
yeah,
there's a treat. So,
yeah,
or trinket or whatever.
yeah,
So there was that, but then also the other option was just bike and foot, no paddling of any sort. So I think that also kind of can simplify gear. When you're talking about free races, you're not going to be renting, you know, 20 canoes or anything. We did do some rental kayaks in the last one, but logistically, it is very difficult. And so then, yeah, for like a free race, you're like, that's a big enough expense right there just for people to go rent their kayaks for,
yeah,
$80 or whatever. It's like exorbitant.
yeah.
So
I think that's really, really admirable that you're able to put on events free of charge.
I get
Um,
my training in. It's not,
yeah.
it's not sad.
But I do also think that there might be a point at which you might get burnt out. How do you
Hmm.
manage that? Or you're just good
Well,
at having boundaries between how much you can have on your plate and not.
yeah, I think there is something to say no when people have asked, will there be like a family friendly version the next day after the next training event? And I'm like, I don't think I can do that. Like
Yeah.
I can support it the day of while I'm there, but to support two different events back to back, like I don't have an army of people here.
Right.
And I've got to pick up the course. I got to set the course and I got to pick up the courses. Like I don't know about that. Like if I'm the course setter, then I have to draw boundaries. But I think it's helped to have other people like Dana and Michael Dubois on this last event set the course and really be the event directors for that. And I was just co-hosting in the background with like the run sign up and the Facebook, like the marketing basically behind it.
Yeah.
I to be able to partake in the course has is like the best thing for my soul, so I don't
Yeah.
feel burnout then because like, oh yay, I get to show up and have fun.
Yeah. And so how have you cultivated those people so that you're already able to step back a little bit and let other
Well,
people take the reins sometimes?
it helps that so Dana is an ambassador of Women of AR, and it helps to have positive peer pressure from the other ambassadors and from Stephanie to, hey,
Yeah.
like you gotta host an event. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
But she had the backing, right? And we're happy to help her. And I think maybe it's just us helping each other or being that
Yeah.
positive peer that's going to be
Yeah.
like, okay, how do we get this done? And I had that with Kyle in my first one. If Kyle wasn't there for me to bounce ideas off of, I don't know if it would have happened. So,
Yeah.
maybe it's that surround yourself with, five people that are going to get it done. And then
Yeah.
you're
Like-minded.
just going to absorb it.
Yeah. So I get a sense that you are bringing a lot of people to the sport, not just women. But um, what is your approach to recruiting women into adventure racing especially, any of them that might not see themselves as outdoorsy
Ooh.
or even competitive. You were even saying you're just now feeling competitive, but
Well, internally I'm competitive, but in the sport, not as much, right?
I don't
I
know.
I don't actually know if I've successfully recruited anybody that's neither of those two things. I mean, we Liz and I got our teammate Aaliyah to go to nationals that one year, and she had never done an adventure race before at all. But we knew her from rowing, so still, innately competitive.
Right.
Um, and then the two newbies I took out this last race, one's a really good mountain biker and one's, like I said, a trail runner. And I've already been out with her trail running, and I had never mountain biked with the other guy, but like I knew him from the gym. So it was like they already like to be outdoors. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. When
Well,
you know, tell me, please.
well, I think in your case, you're providing the opportunity, and that's all you needed to do. Everything else is just working.
Yeah,
People came to meet up and they were already, attracted to what you were providing. And there was
that's
nothing in
true.
your area that people could use as a racing opportunity. So
That's
you're
true. I'm filling
definitely
in a
filling
gap.
a void, which is
Hmm.
really amazing. And I guess especially sometimes that like holds me back from doing something like you're doing is I feel like, oh, it's got to be, like a big race. It's got to be a big deal, or it's got to have all the components, and I've got to
Mm,
have permits, and I've got to have this, and I've got to have that. And what I'm just hearing is you can start grassroots and you can just have a backyard, get together and say, here's
yeah.
the maps. Let's go do this.
Yeah.
And
This is never going to be my income, right? So like there's that alleviated pressure of like just do it for fun because that's
well,
what you
I
wanted
did
for fun.
mention this to you once before that I think you might need to start making some money doing it
I,
because
I don't I
you've been
don't
so
we
successful.
cross into a dangerous area then. But
Yeah, I
also,
understand that too.
yeah, I mean as a training event, it's just less ugly for permitting and liability and everything that it's just like hey, coming together, you're showing up and training. I don't
Yeah, so you have not needed permits, correct?
so in San Diego, correct.
Yeah.
We might like rent a cabana, some sort of thing at a park to have somewhere to gather. But in general, San Diego doesn't require a permit for under 75 people,
Okay.
or if you do, yeah, there's certain situations where you still need a permit anyways. But
Yeah.
um,
Do you foresee a time when you're going to have more than 75 participants? Or will you just always cap it?
whoa.
Whoa.
Uh, that would be amazing. I will cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
happily get permits then. Um,
Yeah.
no, that's a whole different world than I could even anticipate right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm also wondering what you think the biggest barriers to having women in the sport are.
Yeah. First off, imposter syndrome. Second, mom guilt
Mm,
for those that are moms specifically. Um, I think those are the big two. Imposter syndrome is funny because I don't know exactly how to fix that.
yeah,
Right? We just face it.
I
Mom
think just
guilt.
encouraging others and seeing that, it doesn't take that much, just to
Yeah.
get out there and doing it. But tell me more
Oh
about the
yeah.
mom guilt because I am I am aware of mom guilt. It can get pretty serious sometimes. But tell me your take on
Yeah.
how you manage mom guilt.
Um, it's interesting because a few years ago, I definitely felt guilty about stepping away from the house on the weekend. Like it felt limited time anyways on the weekend. And then I'm stepping away to go join a, ladies mountain bike group for a couple hours. It felt like, oh, that's half of one of the weekend days right there just to do this. But it's funny in talking with my spouse that he's seen it as a positive, but I was making it to be more than it should be. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, I'm the best version of myself when I'm doing these things. So like, not only is it really good and necessary that I need to do it, but I mean, okay, then I show up the best possible way all the other hours of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
loved how you said that.
and then showing up, proving like the example that I want my child to see as other moms doing. Like when he grows up, um, you know, I want him to be supportive and expect, I guess, maybe to some extent, like that, hey, live this active lifestyle and your partner should as well. Or,
Yeah.
at least certainly not assign guilt to it.
Yeah.
But mom guilt, I mean, I ran into a mom in Brawl that they were going to do the 24-hour and her and her husband actually. So the kids were at grandparents or something. And man, she was feeling so much mom guilt. It was the first time she had been away from her kids that long, like never overnight, and something to that effect. So I apologize to her if she's listening and I'm getting it all wrong.
Yeah.
But oh man, she was just like, I think I'm gonna leave after 12, or I'm gonna finish early. And I sincerely hope that she was saying all that just because she wanted to only do the 12-hour. But I think genuinely there was a lot of mom guilt, and that it was like, oh man, if I could somehow relieve that from you and just like give you the night off from your fear, from your anxiety, from your expectations that you're levying on yourself, can
Hmm.
you just be for
Yeah.
24 hours, you
Let it
know?
go.
Like, yeah, let it go. Be in the woods. Go get dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go.
It's so rewarding in so many ways. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Also
give
for the
all
imposter
moms
syndrome.
permit.
Oh,
I was just going to say, I
no.
give all moms permission out there to go try
Yeah,
adventure racing. Do something
right?
for yourself. It's okay to do something for yourself. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're not going to be there, and not do everything else you need to be doing, but you can still do
Yeah.
something for yourself.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And actually, even for imposter syndrome, if we can circle back to that too, like I think a lot of people are asking, "Am I good enough? Am I fit enough? Am I whatever?" And it's like, okay, what if you're not fit enough? So you go and do your first race, but most adventure races are very tailorable, right?
Mhm.
You can cut out a whole chunk, you can skip to this, you can like get to some TA and only do one or two of the next checkpoints on foot, say, and then you get back on your bike and you just get a couple on the way back to the next thing. I think that people don't realize how tailorable races tend to be. That they're
Mhm.
like, oh man, it's 10 hours, I could be out for 10 hours. Or instead of like, you could probably be out for 2 hours if you just connect the minimum number of dots, right? Like,
Yeah, you're
or
absolutely
just
right.
walk, yeah, or just walk everything, or whatever you want to do, right? Like, it's really choose your own adventure. And I don't, yeah, if I could tell everybody that, that's what I try to actually market it as.
Yeah. I think that's great for everyone to hear. And I also wanted to talk to you about the community and the Women
Mhm.
of AR initiative. Um, it- Tell me about that.
Yeah. It it's really made, I say the Women of AR initiative in general, created by Stephanie, is really made the group of adventure racers, or at least female identifying or women identifying adventure racers, at least in the United States, feel like a much smaller group. Um, I feel like we extend beyond the US, but the ambassadors are all in the US, at least for now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, Maybe we'll get some
Hint, hint.
international ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like it's connected us and given us shared energy and
Yeah, it's made it seem like a tight-knit group, even despite the geographic distance.
hmm.
Um, and it's actually because of the group that I've been explicitly inspired to mentor other women. It feels like this chapter in life is screaming at me to reach back behind me and grab the hand of another woman and pull her up to me,
Yeah.
Like it's happening over and over that it's like, okay, maybe I'm not at the competitive level, or maybe I'm not the business owner that I thought I would be, or maybe at work, my 9 to 5 job, I'm not the whatever. I'm not the subject matter expert that I thought I would be, whatever it might be, but it's still like, oh, but there's still junior people, other junior women that like need like, okay, let's help get them. I'm doing the motion of pulling back behind me, by the way. It's not just my head jerking around.
Come on. No.
Come on.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think you're right on all those points. And um yeah, I'm just wondering what's your vision of adventure racing in the future for women?
ooh. I would love to see the Premier Division co-ed teams, as you know, have 2 and 2, men and
Yeah.
women.
Hmm.
I'm not particularly a fanatic for the all male or all women teams, even though we have a women of AR teams. Sorry,
Hmm.
Stephanie. But I would love to just see equal representation is all. And
Yeah.
I've been on teams, like I said, nationals as more or less newbies, uh, 3 of us women on that team. And I've raced in an expedition race where there was 3 women and 1 male, and that was also pretty rare,
Yeah.
becoming less rare. But
Yeah.
I would just like to see 50-50. That's
Yeah.
really, well,
I think that's a great goal. I agree with you on that. And if you were going to give any advice to anyone listening, if they're curious to starting AR or even if they're planning to step up to another level, or if they're planning to put on an event in their area,
ooh,
what advice do you have for any one of those groups of people?
just do it and fail fast.
Fail fast.
Fail fast. Very simple advice that, like, if you just embrace that, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna fail. Just do it faster. And then you can learn from them and do round 2, right? If you want to step up to the next level, I mean, there are certain, programs, the AR school. There are certain ways that you can invest to either time and or money to get better to step it up to the next level. But honestly, just even starting a race, getting into a race, or wanting to go to a longer race, you know, just do it. Just
Just do it. What's next for you?
ooh, well, I'm putting on another free event. Luckily with Kyle, actually, it's a course that Kyle has more or less designed that I'm taking his baby and running with it because he won't be in town. But I'll put that on in August in Dana Point, California. So it's technically on San Diego County, but it's close enough and it's
Yeah.
coastal. And in August, we need to be at the ocean. It's way too hot inland here. So
Yeah.
that's next up on the calendar. Um,
And do you have any races that you're racing in coming up?
I'm doing a lot of non-adventure races, actually. I'm doing a trail 50K in Big Bear in October, and really the next big adventure race is Magnificent in 2026. That's what
Wonderful.
yeah, very much looking forward to that, and everything else is supportive in that goal.
I hope to be at the Magnificent too. So see you
Woohoo!
there.
Okay.
Yeah, in New Zealand. How exciting.
I know. I'm saving my PTO. I'm desperately trying not to burn it, even though I'm usually single digits.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if anyone wants to do your upcoming training event, or if they have
Oh yeah.
any questions about how to put on their own backyard event, how would they get in
Yeah.
touch with you?
Lots of ways. Okay, so first of all, I need to update it. But sdadventureracing.com always forwards to the latest run sign up. And what I just realized was, oh no, that points to the one a couple weeks ago. I still need to update. I still need to make a run sign up event for the Dana Point one. So
So
maybe by the time
this is
this
your
video,
deadline. Yeah.
yeah, the podcast is released. I gotta
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they can reach out to me personally on Facebook, Instagram, or email admin at Ecolux Adventures. That's ECOLUXE adventures.com. That's essentially the company that sponsors the Run Sign Up domain, not Run Sign Up domain, the SD Adventure Racing domain, and all of the other supporting like marketing functions. It pays for Canva and the other things. So
Okay.
that's where you can
Great.
reach me also. Yeah.
Well, I want to leave with your well, just a chance for you to say anything that we didn't cover that you think we should have.
Ooh.
Do
No, we
you
talked
have
about mom guilt.
any and so how about this? Let's end with what does adventure racing mean to you?
Whew.
Deep.
Yeah. Oh, need a bit to think about that one. No, it's actually a really generous community. Adventure racing is not just the sport of pushing ourselves, and mind you, I've done triathlons for about 11 years. It can be a very lonely sport. Um, so coming to adventure racing and only having raced in a team, it has been quite the community, and it makes the world a lot smaller because there's people that I know from other countries that I run into regularly, it feels like.
Yeah.
Or at least, yeah. And you just see the same community of people over and over, and you feel like you know them, or even the possibility of like, um, seeing, learning from lots of big names in the sport. Um,
Yeah.
Marco Anselm from Bitterrid is here in San Diego as well. And to learn from him and be, near him at a race as well, it's like, oh, like he walked by and he had his clue sheet already cut out, like his passport part was cut out, and and I was like, I'm already learning from you.
Wow. And he's at your event that you organized.
Yeah, he's also a sponsor.
That is so
So
cool.
we've built, yeah, it's slowly growing in sponsors as well. So Pasokin is a sponsor, which is his company. He's brought samples, yeah, it is really neat. He came out to Dana's Ramona one with his son, and it was really heart touching.
Oh, that's
He,
wonderful.
yeah, they raced together, and yeah, it's just neat to have that whole spectrum of capability out there,
Yeah.
and in not an intimidating way.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for your time tonight. Thanks for
Heck
sharing
yeah.
all your insights. And yeah, thank you so much. I am here with Beth Zagurski. She is a Women of AR ambassador. And I met you, I think, at the C2C. And I think it was 2023. Was that when we met?
I think that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think at the time that might have been your longest race at that time. But why don't you tell us about your adventure racing history? What drew you to it also?
Well, it's a short history. um, so I mean, I've always been drawn to doing something like this. I was a big, I loved to watch Eco Challenge on television. I spent my childhood in a creek, making up adventures for myself. So I've always been drawn to it. I live in the South, so I live in Louisiana, and it is basically the hinterland of adventure racing. So there's been a few opportunities that some local guys that stage other races had organized some adventure races. And, you know, that I was like, oh, this is possible. I could, maybe do this. And through mountain biking or local mountain biking group, I met Cody Bush, and he's Team Misguided. And he's like, hey, I think you should do this adventure racing thing with me. And I had like the group that we were with, they're like, yeah, you'd be perfect for this, you should totally do this. So the first one I did was a 24 hogback, and a lot of do the warrior adventure races because they are closer to us, and it's more accessible. So after doing that 24, I just was hooked. I was like, yep, this is it. And I've done multiple types of racing. I've stand-up paddleboard raced. I've 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, ultra marathon, mountain bike, more gravel racing, some road bike, now mountain bike racing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and your profession is in the physical realm also, right? What do you do?
Yes, I'm a fitness professional of over 35 years. And so currently I'm a personal trainer. I oversee the group exercise or group fitness program at our gym, and at our fitness center, actually. And then also part of the management staff there as well. So, and I also teach group exercise. So that's how I got into the fitness field. So I got into the fitness field teaching group exercise.
So you must have never felt any imposter syndrome at these adventure races because you've already done it all before you started racing.
No, not like absolutely not. No, it not imposter syndrome. It's more like I feel, like physically, I have some confidence. I can get through some things. I feel, I feel pretty. I've got mental toughness. I've got some grit.
Yeah.
I could do the physical things, but the logistics of it, the map reading, the navigation skills, strategy. Like there's so much more in this type of racing that isn't just, okay, you're going to get from a start to a finish.
Right.
And so, and typically a lot of the things that I've done have been solo events. So I'm not, even in high school, I was on the track team, but that's really, a solo event. You're running for your school and you're as a team, but it's really more of a solo event.
Yeah.
So the team aspect actually was daunting. And it's daunting because I don't want to let anyone down.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be the weakest link.
And you probably have never been the weakest link. And if you have, it probably hasn't been for long.
I try not to. I mean, if I am, then, and that's the beautiful part of, I think, once you get past a certain time frame in this type of racing, once you get into the, like the 72-hour race, more the expedition race, and you're going to realize that everybody has their time to shine and their time to, like just completely bonk.
Right.
And then you just hope that those offset and complement each other and you carry each other through. So,
absolutely. Yeah. I like how you said that. And so when was that 2023 that was your first race?
That was my, it would have been 2021. So we were coming right out of COVID. In fact, our pictures are with masks on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so since then, you've done a lot of racing?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've done a couple of 24 hours. I did one solo by myself, 24 hour, and that was heart stopping for me. I've done C2C and then Expedition Ozark, and then getting ready for Endless now.
Oh, yeah. And that's just a couple of weeks away, right?
Yeah.
Who are you racing with?
I'm racing with Cody Bush and Chad, and I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name.
That's okay.
Because I'm going to butcher it.
And your Team Misguided again?
Yeah, Team Misguided. Yeah.
Okay. How exciting. So then share with me like a time when is there a defining moment when you felt like you belonged in adventure racing? Like this was your sport? Was there a defining moment?
Um, I mean, just doing my first race, like I said, I was hooked. So I wouldn't say
Yeah.
that that was a defining moment. It was just a knowing, like this is the type of racing that, you've been waiting for, basically. This multidiscipline, just being out in nature, unplugged, working with other people or working on your own. Just like there's so many things about it that just naturally fit,
Yeah.
naturally click in. So there wasn't any like aha moment. It was probably more like a confirmation, like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
That's cool. And I can't not go on without asking about how racing by yourself for 24 hours was heart-stopping. Tell me about that.
Because I am have zero, even right now, I have such low confidence in my map skills and navigation skills. And that's a consequence of, several things. There's not a lot of opportunity to do that around here. I mean, like I said, I live in Louisiana. It's flat. Yeah, this is very, very
I
flat.
relate.
And so it's really challenging to practice those skills. The other part, I mean, honestly, is being alone at night. There's a certain part where there's no one else around and you hear a noise, or
Yeah.
you're like, here's a bear-proof dumpster. Awesome. Okay, what color are those eyes? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Just and I don't know, the way that I dealt with that is just like there are things out here, for the most part, other than owls and nocturnal animals, they're always here.
Yeah.
They're always here,
It's no
whether
different.
it's day or night.
True. Yeah, but you're glad you did that race. Would you do another
Oh
24
yeah,
hour solo?
absolutely. I would do
Yeah.
it again.
I find that a draw too. I love the team aspect and I also love the solo aspect too. And I've been there where I saw a bear canister and then I saw a bear running away. Like, oh man. And he was going in the direction that I was going to be traveling. So I changed my mind and went
Yeah.
clear around. If you were dot watching, you would have thought like, what is she doing? Like, I am getting as
And I
far
just
away as
recently
possible.
learned that black bears can open up car doors.
Oh
So
my gosh. No way. Well,
yeah.
anyway, moving on, besides bears. So then you got involved as a Women of AR ambassador. And I'm wondering, what's your approach to recruiting women to adventure racing?
Right now, I'm really doing it through the venue of mountain biking, because we started a ladies, call it Louisiana area single track sisters.
Mm,
And so it's a mountain bike group for women only. And the reason for that is that typically women are intimidated, and then maybe they don't have technical skills, they don't have the fitness yet, and then they go out with their significant other, and then their significant other is trying to teach them how to mountain bike, and then we know how all that goes.
yeah.
So, and I had gone to Bentonville and had gone to a Women of Oz convention out there, and it was called the Sunset Conference, I think. It was 3 days. It was all females. It was all female coaches. It was female led. It was an awesome experience. Everyone was, super supportive, really cheerleaded one another. You can tell, after the first, like half a day, everyone was comfortable with one another. And so it was just kind of like in that spirit, trying to create that so that we had that on a monthly basis. So I'll do, I'll do a lot of sharing with that group. I share it with my fitness groups, and I don't get that many. I don't get that many interested.
Yeah. Well, I do think that sometimes mountain biking is a barrier for women to getting into the sport. So starting with people who are already interested in mountain biking, I think that's a great way to go.
Yeah. And
And
the other way, just one other way, is actually through families. So through the mountain biking group and through families. And that's where I've so far seen the most kind of like piqued the most interest, like, oh, I'm kind of interested. Maybe they don't take the next step, but at least, there's like a little crack in the door.
oh,
And then doing, the families are super fun. I really enjoy watching the families go.
so what do you do to bring the families in? Like create an
So
event or?
the couple of ways I've done it. One was through my work, and I actually work at a country club, and we have a golf course. And it sounds, it sounds like, well, that's not adventure racing. But the other thing that I've come to realize is that you have to back when you're at a certain level, you have to back things way up, and then you have to back them up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so, just having a family fun adventure race where they had a map and they had, plots on the map, and then they had to go to the swimming pool, and they had to, take the stand-up paddle boards across the swimming pool, and then they had to go find, something else on the golf course. And, they were, there's whole families all the way down to age 3 or 2, like in the stroller doing it. And then I do mystery challenges, at least, a couple of stations where it's just silly stuff, eat this thing of barbecue crickets or do 30 burpees, your choice. And I know what I do. Crickets win. Crickets win over burpees.
You're kidding.
But so, they come in and they have a blast. They're having a really good time. I mean, maybe that's the only event that they would ever do. However, that kid that does it, might have, some good feelings about that. And maybe, they get into it later. So
you're calling it an adventure race for families, and you put it on at the golf course.
Yes.
And how do you get the families? Just from the people that go to that course, or do you have other ways of advertising?
That is, just kind of like a built-in audience. So I took advantage of the built-in audience there at the best place for us to do this, where I have the best working relationship, is a park called Bogachito State Park. And so I've taken advantage again of the built-in audience there. So primarily that's how I've been doing it, is just taking advantage of the built-in audience and running these different ideas. The one that I've been doing at the park, the state park, is a poker run. So it's a mountain bike adventure race poker run. So they go out, I have the orienteering flags, they get the maps, they go out for every CP they find. They have a passport. So I set it all up like exactly how we would do an adventure race. And when they come to check back in, however many CPs they've gotten, that's how many cards they get. They make their best hand out of those cards, and then we've got prizes.
Oh, that's fun. That's a clever way to make it exciting to finish.
They people really get into it. They really get into it. And so, those have been co-ed races. We have a NICA group here. So I think is it the intercollegiate? I'm really bad with the cycling association, but this is for youth. And so we just recently started one in our area, actually one state over. And so again, collaborated with those guys, that group, to set up an adventure race for them. And we didn't do the poker run style, but kids really like to have the mystery challenges. Like, you're going to get here and there's a mystery challenge,
That's cool.
And I really just make it up on the fly, eat these anchovies. Like, you got the CP. If you want a bonus point, eat these anchovies, you know?
I'm glad that's not in most typical adventure races.
Yeah.
But I could see how that would be a
Oh,
big draw.
yeah, we did a great prologue last time, and this is based off of this European show, and it's called Taskmasters. It's a hilarious show. But we had marshmallows and spaghettis, and you had to make a bicycle wheel out of it. That was their prologue.
Ah, that's fun.
So anyway, I try to capitalize on fun. I back it way up. You know, for the poker run is probably where we're approaching a little bit more kind of like serious, you know, racing. You're out on the trails. I'll put you on some technical trails. You have the choice of skipping those technical trails and just staying on the easy trails. You know, there's no mystery challenge. It's just, you know, this is just a fun way for you to win a prize.
Do you have any advice for anyone who would like to put on their own event in their area?
I really do think the best way to do it is to figure out where your built-in audience could be.
Yeah.
I tell you from experience, I've put on a lot of events. So I put on fitness festivals. I put on complementary alternative medicine festivals, music festivals, and there's nothing that will just dash your spirits more than spending a lot of time on an event for the public and then advertising it and having 3 people show up.
Yeah.
Or having no one show up.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and passion gets you far, and, you know, your own kind of like enthusiasm for the sport will get you far. But when you're spending a lot of your own time doing that and not netting a result, it will, you know, wear you down real quick. So I think looking at where you could capitalize on a built-in audience and who can you collaborate with, where can you get permissions that you don't necessarily have to, you know, you don't have to pay for the space. It's not complicated to get permissions. You don't have to worry about, especially with you're collaborating with someone, you know, like I was collaborating with my work. So in that case, it could be a team building event. So if you work at a place that has, you know, for example, we have Pennington Center here. It's a research center. They have a massive campus. You can use that campus. And if they partner with you, they'll take on the liability for that. And then for you, it's just planning it. And then you've got a built-in audience for it.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the easiest way as someone that doesn't organize events to, you know, step into it and see how it goes.
Yeah. Have you had some folks go on to do other races?
I've talked one of my friends, I mentored her into doing Omar with me that I think that first year, and we did a 12-hour race. And it's great. Every time that I teach someone, that means that I have to learn more.
Yeah. It's the best way to learn something is teaching someone else.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, I would love to be able to, you know, mentor, you know, more people. But anyway, it was a friend deal, and she said she would do it. And, you know, so we went over gear, and she had questions, and, you know, and it helped out both of us.
Yeah.
We were probably the last ones to come in, but it was great.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know,
that doesn't always matter.
Yeah. And I don't know if she would do it again. I think she really, really appreciated the experience on a lot of different levels. I think now she would do it again, but immediately afterwards, she was just like, "Whew, this is overwhelming."
Yeah. So what do you think the barriers are specifically for women, I guess?
I really think there's a lot, especially for women. So for women, especially women that choose to have families, you just really don't have the time or the resources or the money to dedicate to it. I think region, like where you live, can be a barrier. Mm-hmm. For example, where I live, I drive typically an hour and 15 minutes to get to mountain biking that I feel like is something I can train with. I would have to drive 2 hours to do that. So, and also we don't like our main training lake has been closed down to like dredge it. So, so like your area can be a barrier. Time can be a barrier. I think having just the equipment could be a barrier. I know there's a lot of ladies that are interested in mountain biking, but they are like, I can't spend $1,500 on a bike, and that's an entry level bike. So there's things like that, like could there be more rental opportunities for that, borrowing opportunities. So, and I know there are, like, we are in our community, once someone wants to try something and they need a bike or they need something, then we're always offering, hey, come borrow this, you can come borrow that.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the things for sure, other than the obvious of, technical skill. A lot of people are worried about the fitness, and, adventure racing is an endurance sport, and women are built for endurance.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, I think you could do quite well with having a general fitness routine and throwing in some running, throwing in some biking, throwing in some rowing at the gym. We're not training. It sounds like we're training for the Ironman, but these are two completely different types of racing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that you're not going at such a high heart rate for that long time. Like, they don't think they can last, but it's
Correct.
all, it's manageable is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you see as like a vision for women in AR in the future?
I've been excited by watching other female racers and how well they do. And I think about the ultramarathon space and how well females do in that space. And then also knowing that, the co-ed teams are the most competitive teams.
Yeah. Exciting.
I think women would be surprised at how well they could do in the sport, and how much they could get out of it. Um, you know, um, and it's really hard for me to gauge, I guess, how much interest there is in other, because of where, like I said, because of where I live. We've got to be really dedicated to do outdoor sports here,
Yeah.
And getting more people just to go outside and even walk or run, is
Yeah.
challenging.
This time of year too. I mean, it's getting really hot and humid down there right now.
Yeah, yeah. So, now's not the time for like me to attack all these things. Now the time is to plan so that it's in place so that, we can do more winter racing. And that is an opportunity for our area to host that sort of thing. But it's just getting the buy-in, like once you start to organize legit races, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of volunteers and stuff like that. And when you have people that aren't introduced to the sport and you don't have like a big racing pool, then it's hard to get people to volunteer like you could for a 5K,
Right.
for a cause.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have those people lined up all the time.
Right. I think you're off to a good start with your family races and with your poker runs. That sounds really fun. I guess I'm wondering then, what does adventure racing mean to you?
Oh, wow. I think it's the biggest takeaway, not takeaway, but I guess the thing that just keeps me wanting to come back for more is it just brings everything down to such simplicity.
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's another thing I wish I could share with more people, you know, where it's like it's the crunch of the leaves or the gravel underneath your bike or listen, you know, oh, now I really do hear that babbling brook. And, you know, one of the things that I went on and on and on and on about in Expedition Ozark was the first time that I filtered water for a lot, you know, like our water needs, and how amazing it was and how great it tasted. And
Yeah.
so I think it's just really bringing it down to this simplicity of, you know, you being out, you know, in the environment and your surroundings, with or without your teammates, and what a great way to like travel and see
Yeah.
the, you know, the country. It's just like you're just not going to see things that you would see
Absolutely.
otherwise. And you
Yeah.
can do a little bit of both. You can race, and then you can, you know, check out the urban landscape.
Yeah, do both. A lot of races are like that, like the Nationals in Bentonville. It's a great place to go biking, and it's also a quaint little town. Like it's fun to hang out in the town too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking with me tonight, and good luck with the Endless Mountains. I wish I were racing it. I'll be
I
following your dot. Is there anything else you want to add that we didn't get to?
um you know, I would just highly encourage women, if you're even slightly tempted, you know, just try it. Find the you know, like a very short race. If you don't have the equipment, know that there's plenty of people that will help you out. We have the Women of our AR Facebook page. You know, and it is a great crowdsource of information. You know, and the only way that you're going to even know if you're going to like it and then get better at it is just got to do it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
always comes down to the Nike motto, the Nike
Just
thing,
do
just do
it.
it.
Absolutely.
And the racing community is great. You know, when you're out on a course, you're really not by yourself. You're never by yourself. And you know, there'll be, you know, like if you're at a low point, there's going to be somebody there to pick you up. So
Yeah.
it's just a great, it's a, you know, you don't know until you try it.
Yeah. And if anyone wanted to get in touch with you or wanted to do one of your events, how would they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me through Instagram or Facebook. It's just my name, Beth Zagurski. Um, you know, I'm happy to share my email address, so you
Okay.
can also email me. Um,
So you're not hard to find, and I think by your name, you might be the only Beth Zagurski on either of those platforms. I don't know.
yeah, or one of few. Like you won't have to go through many until you find me.
All right. Well, thanks so much. I really am impressed by what you're doing. And again, have a great race. And everyone else out there, thanks for listening.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please take a moment to leave a rating and a comment. To find additional content, including the video versions of these discussions, you can search for Disability Racing on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
We hope this podcast inspired you to focus on your abilities and plan your next adventure.
See you on the trail.